Hi, Steve Hayes here, and welcome to Days Are Getting Better, episode number 23. In this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about feeling overwhelmed. I want to talk about what's happening in the personalization of therapy, and just a few comments about winning an award that is deeply meaningful to me. So let's get started. All of us have had times when we feel overwhelmed emotionally, and I certainly have. I am no gift to emotional flexibility, as anyone who loves me will tell you. But I have watched over time as the principles that are underneath an ACT approach, the psychological flexibility approach, have had an impact on people and on myself. In the blog that's here in the newsletter, I walk out the kind of unrealistic expectation that the mind will sometimes give you, which is that if you work enough on your flexibility skills, you're going to be Mary Poppins and be practically perfect in every way. Probably dating myself with that old movie reference, but the point being that feeling at times emotionally overwhelmed is not a flaw. It's not a bug. It's a feature. It's part of being human, and our challenge is to do something in those moments that produce a little bit of progress, not so much in eliminating feeling overwhelmed, but in channeling our lives in a positive direction according to our own deepest yearnings and values. In the blog, I'm talking about that in psychological domains, relationship domains. But let's talk about some of the other domains that are here. Let's talk about things like climate change. Anybody with eyes to see and ears to hear should know that we are in for a real battle. Emotionally difficult, stressful, sad battle to save our planet and to make a difference in being able to deflect some of the frightening trajectories that we're now on and step up to these challenges that are worldwide and are no respecter of national borders or of class or culture. When fires many thousands away can darken the sky, or when CO2 levels that have been rising at a spectacular speed lead to seasons that are completely different than what we've normally come to expect in terms of our weather patterns. You take a breath in and it's distressing. Now, young people especially, I think, sometimes are looking at what the data show, and they're experiencing that distress, but sometimes despair. Sometimes a real sense of grief over what's lost. I've been an environmentalist all my life. I wrote one of the earliest books ever written on how environmental problems could yield to behavioral solutions in my very first book, where that was the title, Environmental Problems and Behavioral Solutions, still in print because there's so few books like it, even to this day, almost 50 years later. And yet, I have to confess that when I look at the current situation, I sometimes just want to look away. And instead, I would like to suggest that we apply what's in this newsletter of a 3-step process of stopping to notice, stopping to feel, and of taking a step forward. The stopping to notice things means really giving it your best to dig into what is the situation, what are we facing, not easily accepting the analyses of any one group reading widely, being careful about the fake news. There's a lot of it out there. The next step is to open up, and that includes some feelings that I admit when I was blogging about this or writing an email about this, and somebody was talking about how much grief they feel, and I was kind of like, grief? Golly, if you really enter into grief, it's a feeling that you have when you really lost something. And you're talking about something like actually losing the planet, which is the only place that we have to live. How could that be positive? Well, I think it could be positive, and I apologized actually on a little listserv where I said, grief? Despair? No. Sadness, distress, yes. But no, I think even grief has a place. Because in some small ways, for sure, over the next decades and probably hundreds of years, we are going to lose some of what we've come to appreciate about our planet. There will be species that will be lost forever. There will be coral reefs or areas of the world that will not be habitable in the way that they are now. Maybe for many, many years, even hundreds of years, if we can correct it. But then comes the third step, taking a step. If we are going to solve this challenge, that 3-part formula of noticing, feeling, and stepping forward needs to be done now in a coordinated way, where our shared values that cut across all of these economic divisions, that cut across the political divisions, that we can find a place to cooperate, to come together, and to keep faith with ourselves as a human community. Will that solve the problem? I don't know. But I do know this: if we don't take that third step, we will not be able to solve these problems. I see trends that I think are really, really exciting. I read about a half an hour a day on what's happening in terms of electrical generation, in terms of transportation, of battery technology. And I see a day where it's quite possible we may have the energy at a greatly reduced cost that will allow us to do things like carbon recapture, that would allow us to correct, not even by just getting off fossil fuels, but to correct some of the mistakes that have already been made. But to do that, it's going to mean changing our mindset and our behavior. Of course, buying more environmentally responsible things, but also changing our behavior with each other and with ourselves and with the emotions that we will feel and do feel as part of a worldwide community that sees the challenges that are here. So I recommend the blog to you, and I recommend also that you think about how it might be applied to our day-to-day life, including these very challenging things that we see on those computers we carry in our pockets. I said I would mention just a little thing about an award I won, which is essentially a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Association for Psychological Science, or the Old American Psychological Society, APS. I had a significant role in starting APS. The first office was my lab. And I'll tell that story someday here. But it just was very, very sweet to receive it. And what I want it to sort of be about, I will be given the award in May in San Francisco at the meeting of the APS conference. What I would like it to be about is to be kind of a recognition of the journey that we've been on together. Those of you who are getting my newsletter, especially the professionals and the researchers, but even folks who are reading Act Self-Help and recommending it to others. And not just my book, but the hundreds of other books that are out there, or programs or tapes or videos. You're doing something, I believe, that is bringing behavioral science into the world in a different way, in the kind of way that can go far beyond these top-down normative categories that we're so used to with our DSM disorders and all the rest, but instead into the empowering processes that we need, the modern minds for the modern world that we need to be able to be whole and free in a world in which everyone has access to pain and comparison constantly and can see worldwide the struggles of others. I wanted to mention finally just an exciting look at the future. I've talked a lot recently in the Days of Getting Better and in my newsletters about PsychFlex and about the MindGrapher app that the Institute for Better Health, of which I'm a president, a 45-year-old charitable organization, has produced. I'm not yet ready to sing the song of that because the switch hasn't been thrown. I hope it will happen even before you read this blog or newsletter or hear my voice here in this Days of Getting Better episode. But I just can say we are getting so close to things that I've worked on for several years of how to create an ecosystem that will for the first time allow us to have a real diagnostic alternative to the DSM. You won't see it at first. You'll only see it over a period of months. Keep the faith. If you're involved in exploring the PsychFlex app and the coming plug-in of MindGrapher, keep the faith, because I know what's coming. And I can guarantee you, if I have any credibility with you, it's going to be on a wonderful journey over the next year as we learn how to bring an entirely new perspective over what's empowering to people into the world and finally step away from top-down normative categories and the bell curves and standard deviations as the way that we think about our own futures. So there's a linkage in the newsletter, and I've had a few folks who got in and say, yeah, that's pretty good, but some of these things are on the internet, and I say, when did you stop doing it? Oh, I did it for a couple of weeks. Okay, but come back. Very soon you're going to need to come back. But those who are in this journey with me, look, this is not about money. If I make any money over in the PsychFlex side, it'll be years down the road. Anything that comes to me, I'm putting over into Institute for Better Health to support the development of MindGrapher. This is not about that. This is about a really new way to empower human lives. And what I'm begging for is for the year to prove that to you. Peace, love, and life, my friends. And I'll see you at the next newsletter.